Okay. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation under the Wiki Karnataka Yoga Council's speaker series. Now, the Wiki Karnataka Yoga Council is a group under Wiki. Now, Wiki is the Women's Indian chapter of Commerce and Industry, and it is a premier national business chamber for women, envisioning global impact for women entrepreneurs, businesswomen, and professionals from all walks of life. It is under the umbrella of the Federation, which is FICI. We are supported by G100, by the All Ladies League, by the Women Economic Forum, and the Sheconomy. Now, the Council is a countdown yoga day and we're involved project involving women yoga Karnataka. We're involved in petitioning the government to reopen yoga shalas after stations on women wellness and yoga regularly under an initiative called Yoga Samvad. We regularly have gatherings of women yoga teachers across Karnataka. We have a video series about the business of yoga, which a lot of yoga teachers find relevant and interesting. And we have a newsletter as well, which is the first of its kind, addressing topics of current interest in the field of yoga. And we also support the Yogini Awards every year. Now, the speaker series is a series that's our attempt to drive change by having meaningful conversations with women in diverse fields such as Ayurveda, spirituality, philosophy, and of course, yoga. My name is Pragya Bhatt, and I'm a yoga teacher and researcher. I, in fact, won a Yogini Award for research in the field of yoga. I'm also a new mother and an author myself, and that's why I have a vested interest in today's conversation. I'm in conversation with author Roopa Pai about parenting wisdom from ancient India. Now, a little bit, there's a lot to say about Roopa, but I'm just gonna, paraphrase it because there's just so much. Now, Roopa Pai is one of India's best-known writers for children. She has written over 25 books on themes as varied as sci-fi, fantasy, popular science, math, history, economics, Indian philosophy, life skills, medicines, everything. Her best-known books include the 8-part Terranauts, India's first fantasy adventure series for children. Now, the Gita for Children is an award-winning national bestseller. I have it right here. Listed by Amazon India as one of 100 Indian books to read in a lifetime. And its prequel is the Vedas and Upanishads for children. And I incidentally have those 2 books with me also. Now, her TEDx talk, Decoding the Gita, India's Book of Answers, has received over 2 million views to date. Her most recent book, released last month, is the Yoga Sutras for Children. The Yoga Sutras for Children. So I happen to have all of these 3 books, and I have started reading them. And they're so fascinating that I had to actually stop and clear my schedule for the weekend, and just sit with the 3 books. They're fascinating. I think not only for children, but also I'm finding and I'm learning so much from them. So Roopa, let's begin by talking about your journey. How did you come to write books on spirituality? And, especially like the Yoga Sutras is a book, especially about yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and then you have the Vedas and Upanishads. It's such such vast topics. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you come to write spiritual books for children?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. I'm not sure what's the right thing to say at this time. 5 is sort of on the cusp between afternoon and evening. But namaste, namaskara, elrigu. Yeah, so my own journey as a writer, I always wanted to be a writer, so that was fine. And one of those very lucky ones that knew when she was 8 years old that she wanted to be a writer. And now I think 30 years or little more than 30 years into the writing journey. I haven't regretted it for a moment, not even a day, like not even for a moment. Of course, I got my degree in engineering. I'm a computer engineer, but that was just because I happened to be a middle class South Indian girl who was good at academics, and parents said, absolutely not. You can't do a BA in literature. You have to do some professional course. So which I did. So I think when I was about 13 or 14, I knew, or maybe 12, 13, I knew I wanted to write for children. And that was because I discovered a magazine called Target, which used to come out at that time. And for the first time in my life, when I came upon Target, I found stories that talked about children like me. Today we have a word for it, representation. Everybody's already always up in arms that there's not enough representation for some niche group or the other. But the funniest, if I think back, when we were growing up in the 70s and 80s, in India itself, there was no representation for Indian children in the books that we read. There weren't many Indian authors at all writing for children in English at that time. That was one thing. And even the other kinds of books that we read, which were Indian so-called, were Amar Chitra Katha, which of course did not reference my life at all. They were fantastic books. I loved them. I got my deep interest and love for Indian mythology stems from those books, from having read those books as a child. But there were no children in those stories. In fact, the only three that I can remember that were dedicated to children, sort of child protagonists, were Prahlad, Dhruva, and Nachiketa, and all of them were boys. So there was no representation for girls. There just wasn't. The only women were Apsaras or, Sati Savitris, or just nobody. And then I came across this Indian children's magazine called Target. And they talked about, otherwise my whole world was Enid Blyton and Nancy Drew. So very, very Western kind of thing. Of course, she was fantastic. And she wrote over 700 books. So I had enough to read. And she taught me how to write a cracking story with brilliant dialogue, how to plot it, how to teach morals and values without preaching, to children. So I learned a lot from Enid Blyton. The only downside was that I grew up thinking only British children had cool childhoods. My childhood somehow sucked because it didn't look anything like those children's childhoods. Right. Because they were always roaming around unsupervised. They were, and they were having adventures and catching smugglers and having the most amazing picnics. And I was doing none of that. My life was full of adults. And we were all cousins and, bunked into an ambassador car, and picnics meant Lal Bagh and Kaban Park. That's it. And picnic lunches meant chitrana and mosrana, lemon rice and curd rice, and none of the scones and clotted cream and gingerbread, none of that. So I really thought that my life was terrible. Until I grew up a little more, I began to read history in school and realized that those children were roaming around unsupervised in the English countryside because London was in danger of being bombed during the Second World War. And they had been sent away. Schools were shut, parents were at war, mothers were helping out, fathers were away. So when I realized that, then suddenly I got a new perspective on my own life. I said, my God, I live in Bangalore, Karnataka, Mysore, what used to be the kingdom of Mysore, which means that there had been no conflict here since 1799. After the death of Tipu Sultan, no conflict in these parts. We were on a lovely solid plateau in the middle of the peninsula, far away from floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, anything. We were safe. And that gave me a new perspective on my life. And the fact that I didn't have to eat out of tins. Eating out of tins seemed like such an adventure, reading Enid Blyton. But the fact that I could have freshly cooked food then suddenly began to mean to me that an adult or a bunch of adults cared enough to wake up early and cook something for us. So that different perspective on what my life was so useful, was so transformational for me that I decided, I think in that moment that, first of all, I decided I want to write for Target. That was my goal in life. I wanted to grow up and be part of Target magazine because it had just opened my mind, blown open my mind. And secondly, I decided that I wanted to write for children, and I wanted to write Indian stories for Indian children so that no other generation would grow up feeling life was elsewhere. They would realize how beautiful and how blessed their own lives were. I think without me articulating it like that, even to myself, somewhere inside, I realized that unless you know your own roots really well, you will truly not be able to respect anybody else. You will probably be seduced by some other philosophy or ideas or ideology, and you'll probably go away and perhaps follow it, but you will not be being true to yourself, because unless you know who you are, you cannot really respect somebody else. So that was now I'm articulating it like that. I didn't realize it at that time. But I grew up, I wrote for, I went to Delhi, I moved to Delhi from Bangalore, I got the job at Target. So that was for me like again, an early sign that we are always guided. And if we don't become obstacles in our own way and are willing to put in the hard work and sacrifice that a dream requires, the universe will conspire to make it happen. It was, I won't go into the details here, but it was really like it was just meant to happen. It could not have happened otherwise, but somehow it happened. And I can only explain it to myself as because I wanted it so much and because I was willing to put in the work for it. Not just say I want it and then sit here, but move without guarantees, without insurance, move 2,000 kilometers across the country and saying that I just want to work there without knowing if they had a job for me, those kinds of things.
Right.
And so I did a bunch of writing and did a bunch of other things. I traveled, I lived in different places across the world, came back in 2004 and started Bangalore walks with my husband, doing all that. In 2008 or so, my first editor from Target magazine got back in touch with me after many years and said, I saw a story of yours in some magazine, and that's exactly the kind of tone that I was looking for. I have just become publishing director of children's books at a new publisher, a UK publisher that has opened a branch office in India, and I want you to write for me. So, I was writing a lot, but I had gone away from the writing for children bit after Target, I'd had my own children and that. So I was writing for magazines. I was doing anything because I lived abroad. I couldn't write so much for Indian magazines or books. So this was the first time I was actually writing a children's book. And I said, here's my chance to be Enid Blyton. That old dream rose to the surface, but an Indian Enid Blyton. And so my books and my first, what you mentioned, the fantasy adventure series, Tara Knots, it is very Indian in its conception and its execution. But it is, and if an adult reads it, you will recognize Indian landscapes and ideas in it. But for children, it is set in a parallel universe called Mithya. Okay, so everything happens there. And if you read it, you'll say, oh my God, that's what she means. But a lot of the children don't get it. They just think of it as some, parallel universe. And there were no Western goblins, gnomes, dragons, none of that. I mined our own mythology because that's what I wanted to bring to them. So there were Shardulas and Makaras and Gandaberundas and all these kinds of not magical, but fantastical creatures were in the books, and there were puzzles and riddles to be solved. So I had a blast. Okay, so there are 8 books in the series because J.K. Rowling did 7. We had to do better. So so we had 8 books in the series, and they spoke a language. The children in Mithya, the people of Mithya spoke a language called Tara tongue, which mixed up Indian language words with English words. So like a shapeshifter would be called a morphorup. And a teacher would be called an Ak mentor, which is Acharya plus mentor, those kinds of fun wordplay. I had a blast. Finished that, fictioned out. 4 years it took to write those 8 books. And I can't write fiction anymore. And then I wrote a couple of other science books and stuff like the popular science for children. And then my editor, the same editor who was with me at Target, said, hey, I have a great idea for you. And I'm like, yeah, please tell me, because I really have this itch to write, but I don't know what to write about. And she said, why don't you write the Gita for children, a children's version of the Gita? And I said, what? You got to be kidding me. Like, why? I'm the school author. I write Tara knots, I don't write Gita. Anyway, the Gita is for old people. It's not meant for children. It's about death. Why would I write it? I don't know Sanskrit. I have never read the Gita in its entirety. I grew up in a home that didn't even have a copy of it. So what makes me the right person to do it? So I trotted out a bunch of excuses for 6 months. And for some reason, this editor who had given me the job in Target that I wanted, and now it's been 32 years since I've been working with her. Okay. So she somehow, I don't know for what reason, believed that I was the only one who could do it. And she would not get off my back. So for 6 months, she was like, and she was very patient. Every month she would ask me once, like, what do you think? Have you thought about it? And then she said, okay, so have you even read? Because I said it might, if it's patriarchal, if it's sexist, if it's casteist, I'm not going to whitewash it for children, all these things. And she said, you know what? Have you even read it? And I said, no, a little sheepishly. And she said, well, don't you think you should before you give me all these excuses? And I said, yeah, that's fair. So went to an aunt who was a very cool aunt, but also knew the Gita. And she gave me a bunch of commentaries. We talked about it. I went home, began to read, and was completely riveted. So it became like a 180-degree shift. And I was like, oh, shucks, why haven't I read this book growing up? Why did no one introduce this book to me? And of course, I have to write it for children. So that happened. That's how I got into the Gita at all. Very, very reluctantly. I was dragged kicking and screaming by my Krishna, my editor, Vatsala. I write in the Gita that, she has this knack of driving me to the center of battlefields that I want to run away from, and then insisting that I do my writerly dharma. She's like, write it, do it, you should. So that's how that happened. And then it's kind of addictive, this thing. Once you get a taste of it, while you're researching it, portals open, to you in your mind. You begin to be curious about these things. And for me, the main thing about the Gita was that it's a distillation of all the wisdoms of the Upanishads. Yeah. So when I finished and it did well, it was embraced by people, loved it, adults loved it. So I was like, okay, because really I was terrified that people will not like it, So then it worked well. So immediately my editor was like, come on, do Vedas and Upanishads. And I'm like, wait, hold on a sec. Just because I did Gita doesn't mean I'm going to go off in that direction entirely. I have other things to do. I have other worlds to conquer. So she's like very patiently said, okay, you do whatever you want. And I went off. I wrote a book on economics, on life skills for children. I wrote a book on Krishna Devaraya of Hampi for children. But there was always this voice in the back of my head telling me, if it's a distillation of the Upanishads, what did the Upanishads actually say? What did Vedavyasa leave out? Yeah, so that was my curiosity, even as a writer and even as a person. I was like, what did he not say in the Gita? So then I went back to her. I said, okay, fine. I'm ready to do Vedas and Upanishads. By the time I finished that, I did do other books after Vedas. But, I was I said, now I have submitted to this, what they call, whatever, Indian knowledge systems or whatever. I'm curious about them. I want to find out more. And then during COVID, I started learning Sanskrit, finally. Okay. Online. And my Sanskrit teacher at one point said, oh, there's a talk today about the Yoga Sutras, guys, this evening. So why don't... And I had no idea what the Yoga Sutras were at all. Although I was practicing yoga by then, but I had no idea. And all I knew was something I studied maybe in 7th grade. Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutra, something when we're studying ancient India or something, that's all. So because I had nothing else to do, because it was COVID and because I was newly into Sanskrit, and I was like, okay, so then I listened to this man, and his name was Vinay Chandra Banavati. I don't know, you probably know of him.
Yes, I know him, yes.
Yeah, so he gave this talk and I was riveted. And I said, wow, this is like this, Yoga Sutras is like a practical workbook, an accompaniment to the theories of the Gita and the Upanishads. That's all theory. Here is something that tells you how to get there. And I felt it was so perfect and so necessary, vital for young people of today who are so distracted constantly, minds fragmented by social media and the stress of their lives. They have to do well at this, they have to be popular, they have to look good, so much stress. And if they don't, everybody's going to know about it because they're going to put it out. your pictures are going to be out there. And I said, what they need in this time, and there's so much mental health issues. They seem so fragile. And I said, the Yoga Sutras is the best thing for them to learn just how to calm their minds. So that's how the Yoga Sutras. Very long answer, Pragya, sorry, but I had to.
Yeah. It's a fact. I love, your life story and how everything, fell into place to have you realize your dreams, your childhood dreams, and how it was sort of like a step-by-step process to get to Indian philosophy, because Indian philosophy can be a little daunting. It's so vast, and and you also answered the first question that I had, which is, why should children be familiar with the scriptures? And you said a little bit about how the Yoga Sutras can actually help them focus and calm down. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Or why are there any other reasons you'd say children should be familiar with the Indian scriptures?
So essentially, what I've discovered now after my deep dive into the Indian scriptures, and so I can say it with confidence because it's a personal experience. What I've realized is that what we call Hinduism, people say it all the time, it's not a religion, it's a way of life, etc. But it truly is a philosophy. It's not a religion at all, because as I tell children that I speak to when I travel around the country talking to children, I ask them, what is a religion? How would you define it? What are the basics of religion? And then they'll say there are some rules and there are rituals, there are beliefs. I said, but what is this? What is the absolute center of a religion? What is the most mandatory, most fundamental thing? God. God is at the center of religion. And I say, guess what? That is what makes Hinduism something other than a religion, because God is not at the center of it. And they're always gobsmacked when I say that. And they're like, what do you mean? Of course, God, we pray to so many gods. I said, yeah, because that is something we do to be able to give solace to ourselves. We like to look outside at it helps us believe that there is something. But essentially, if you go to the Vedas, if you go to the Upanishads, even the Gita, it's really what is the center of Hinduism? It's not about God. Then what is it about? It's about you. It's about finding your own divine potential. That's why we can say so grandly, the Upanishads can say the Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi, unabashedly. I am God. I am that cosmic energy. I mean, in any other religion that puts God at the center, this would be blasphemous.
Yes.
But we can say it because we truly believe that there is we have the divine, but also Indian philosophy will tell you, I am God, but so are you, and you, and you, and you. And we all carry the same divine spark, and superficial differences are rubbish. They're not important. What is really important is the spark that drives you. And it also, again, the other misconception about Hinduism generally is that it is something fatalistic. It's all written here. It's going to happen anyway. What are you going to do? That kind of thing. In fact, it is it is exactly the opposite. There is some part of it is destiny, in the sense of the circumstances that you're born into.
Right.
That is something you cannot change. You're born into that. But if you go deeper into Indian philosophy, it'll tell you because of what you did in the previous lifetime, or because you chose to be here, etc. But whatever, let's leave that for the moment. But that much is predetermined, that you're born into this kind of family, you have this kind of upbringing. But after that, it's entirely free will, because in each of those situations, it is the choices that you make that guide your destiny.
Right.
You're never, that victim complex is completely missing. You cannot feel like a victim, because Hindu philosophy tells you that you are completely empowered. So what do you mean you're a victim? You're not. You can be anything you want to be. It seems like, and if you think you cannot, if you think you're overburdened, overwhelmed by circumstances, then that is your ignorance. And the whole study of spirituality, of Indian philosophy, is to remove that veil of ignorance, to see yourself as you truly are. And so imagine how empowering it is for a child to be told that you are not a victim of circumstance. You can be whatever you want to be, terrifying as it's liberating, because then you're like, oh, so that means I there's no one really that I can depend on. It's just on me. And all the choices that I make, and every choice that I make is dependent on me. And the choices that I make will lead to, the other thing is, there is no concept of a heaven or hell. There are temporary heavens and temporary hells that you go into in between lives, but once you run out of your brownie points or your coins in Disneyland of heaven, you have to come back and live another life. So when that is there, you have to so that is how, without, like, people ask, without the concept of a heaven or a hell, without the concept of what is good and bad or wrong and right, no commandments, thou shalt not kill, nothing is there. So how do you get Hindus to behave then? And we get them to behave by putting the sword of Damocles of karma on a. So is this that is what. So every action, it may not, we cannot say whether it's good or bad because it's very dependent on the circumstances. But what Krishna says in the Gita is, but be assured that every action has a consequence.
Right.
So that's why at least try and be mindful before you do an action. Think about what is involved. And mindfulness is now a big American word, and there are shelves and shelves of books, but mindfulness was preached then, the mindful action. Because only when you pause, think about what you're going to do and then do it, then possibility of that action being righter than it would have been if you had become emotional and done some action based on your emotion, that would probably be wrong. But the problem is, whether it's right or wrong, you have to bear the consequences. And nobody else can do it for you. Not your parents, not your best friend, not your partner, not your spouse, nothing. You have to bear it. So you might as well be slightly mindful before you act. Those kinds of things, I think, are so useful for children to understand. This is the kind of moral science we need. Not one based on fear that if you do wrong, God is watching you like Santa Claus. He's writing down, are you being naughty? Are you being nice? Who gets the present? Who doesn't? Nothing. God is a disinterested energy. It's not it, and it's genderless, formless, nameless. It's not interested in your life. You make your life what it is. So, however scary it is to think that, it's also how wonderful to think that whatever my circumstances are, I can fashion my destiny to my will within certain constraints of being compassionate, of being mindful of other people, all that.
Right.
So yeah, that's
that's very beautifully said. So that's about the children, but what do the scriptures say about parenting, about parents?
So they don't specific, at least the ones that I have explored, don't say anything specifically about parenting. But but my take on parenting is that children don't do as you say. They do what you do. So if you can, as a parent, take those lessons from the scriptures and behave in that way towards your children, that is good parenting already. They may not say parents should behave like this in the scriptures. They never say, there are no shoulds at all.
Right.
Even in the Gita. So if you start, even in the Gita, if you think of Krishna as assuming a kind of parent role for that moment with Arjuna, a mentor, a parent, because once your children are grown up beyond a certain age, beyond 12, 13, you are no longer you can't be an authoritative parent. You can be a mentor, you can be a guide, but they are coming into their own, they're finding their own identity. And so at that time, you can only enable, help, support. You can't order. So then you take on a Krishna role in your child's life. And what does Krishna do? He's the best kind of parent, in the sense that he shows Arjuna, sometimes he chides him through the Gita, through that conversation, he chides him, he encourages him, he's kind to him, he sympathizes with him, all different tacks he takes. So that itself is a big lesson. When one approach doesn't work, don't go on trying the same approach. It has shown you it doesn't work. Try something else. Krishna does that so many times in the Gita. He changes tack. When Arjuna is least expecting it, he'll suddenly become compassionate. He'll say, oh, I understand what you're feeling. And then sometimes he's saying, you coward, what do you mean you can't do your dharma? So, all the different kind of things. But essentially, he offers him 3-4 ways of being. And he says, if you do this, this will happen. If you do that, that will happen. And he answers patiently all his questions. Okay, so he asks many questions. In the whole conversation, Arjuna is the questioner and Krishna keeps on answering. And sometimes he answers in some abstruse kind of language or a abstruse idea, which Arjuna doesn't get. But Arjuna shows us there is no shame in asking
Yeah.
again. So you see how there is also what Arjuna is modeling also is a kind of behavior where you can also ask your children. They live in a different world. They're negotiating a completely different universe that you have no idea about.
Right.
The world has changed so much. So there's nothing wrong in learning from your children also. So when you speak, they can also teach you many things. So if the conversation is respectful on both sides, it usually is a fruitful conversation. Both go away having learned something from it. And that is the whole mantra, right? Sahana bhavatu, sahana bhunaktu. Let us both be nourished. Let us both be illuminated. Let there be no fight. Let there be no disagreement. And let the learning be fruitful. So that kind of thing, if we apply in our parenting also, whenever we have conversations with our children, that let us both be illuminated and let us both be protected. Let this be a safe space for me to speak my truth to you as a parent, but for you to speak your truths to me as a child as well. Usually it's one way, we think we have the right, but we don't. If they criticize us, we shut down.
Yeah.
So if we can chant, I love that prayer. I wish, schools would use it as a prayer before every class, and with the understanding of what it means. Let this be a safe space in which both of us can be honest with each other and share things and accept them in the same spirit. Anyway, so Krishna gives him all these options.
Right.
And at the end of it, when then he shows him the Vishwarupa, all the drama, spectacle, everything has happened. So Arjuna is like completely, okay, boss, you just tell me what to do. I'll just do it. Okay, I am impressed. You have impressed me. Now I won't have any, I will not debate. I will not argue. I will not doubt you. Whatever you tell me, Vasudeva, what to do, I will do. And then Krishna bowls his googly, which is what we should do, as what we can learn as parents. He says, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I have shown you what you decide.
You decide.
You are blessed with reason, logic, a good sense of ethics. You have lived your life. You know also. And this is again wrong to feel that our children don't know stuff. Okay. Until a certain point about worldly things, they may not know. But they do know. They understand very deeply. I think another thing we should remember, especially, is I love that idea that even our children are old souls. They have passed through life many times. They have wisdom. We should just enable them and support them after a particular age. And I would say 13, 14 is when we should begin to let them go. I feel that's why the Vedic Gurukul started at age 12. Until then, they're children. So you guide them, you give them all your morals, ethics, whatever your way of life is, teach them whatever you want to teach them in an atmosphere of no exam. I mean, I'm just saying, they're not being, no stress, they're playing, they're learning, they're imbibing all your values, all that. Then when they're coming to understand who they are and looking for themselves, looking, who am I? When they begin to ask that question, then you let them go to a school and then that's the right time to, then there are no parents. So there is no conditional love and conditional support there. It's a teacher teaching them. So there is debate possible. There is all that. And then they learn. So I think if we allow our children, give them enough respect, give them enough space to come to their own conclusions about what is the right thing. After we have given this whole ecosystem, we have shown them how we behave, how we deal with situations. And then we trust that now they have gathered all they need to from us. And now it's time for them, because we have to realize that each of our children has his or her own destiny. He's not here to make you happy or to fulfill your wishes.
Right.
She is here as a soul, she's here. You have had the absolute privilege and honor of stewarding her journey until she's 12 or 13, of teaching her all you know. And you are going to be there all the time for her, but it's now time for her to follow her own path. So
has the understanding of the scriptures changed your parenting style? How has it impacted your parenting style?
So I think I was always a kind, because everybody wants to be a parent different from their parents. Everything that the parents didn't do right, or like, I'm not going to do this with my children and I'm going to be a different kind of parent and all that. So I think I was also on that path. And I was obviously, like all parents, going by instinct, whatever felt right at that time. And a lot of the times I would be told by people around me, especially by family, that, you're too liberal and, this is not how you should be stricter. You just let children say what they want, do what they want. I mean, they were not disrespectful, but if they were speaking their minds,
Right.
both my husband and I thought who will listen. And, so what the scriptures did for me was they validated my approach. So for me, it was huge, because otherwise everybody around me was constantly invalidating what I was doing and saying that maybe, you got to put your foot down and you can't be so okay if they do badly in exams, also okay if you do. How can it be like that? And
Right.
stuff, but so that's what they did for me. And they're like, no, it's fine. Children have to find their own voices. It's that very give a man a fish story. If you give a man a fish, you only feed him for a day. But
Yeah.
if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for. That's what we do as parents. We teach our children to fish. And then when they go and they start fishing by themselves, you don't feel bad that you have been left behind. You're like, thank God it's worked. My lessons have worked. And now they're independent and happy on their own. That's great. So yeah, in that way, it has impacted my parenting. I doubt myself less.
Oh, how nice. But I'd say, the what you've just described, the parenting that you've just described, a lot of people would consider that to be radical, like, not really telling a kid, okay, you have to pass the exam or you have to top the school, and how are they going to fend for themselves later? I think, what you're describing is a very radical approach, but it's interesting that it is an approach that is there in the scriptures. It's a scriptural approach to parenting. It's very nice. So, are there any like daily practices that parents can do if they want to inculcate a sense of spirituality in their kids? Like, what are certain things that they can do? Is there an age when kids can be exposed, so to speak, to spirituality? What are the things that we can do?
I think no sudden moves. Okay, from today, you're 12 years old, so now we will start reading the Gita. None of that. I think it should all be very casual, and it can only happen if you are already practicing it and then you slowly draw them into it. Right? It's the same thing. Like, you are on your phone because I have to work and all, but if they are on their phones, you get upset.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And it's nothing to do with emotion. Like, they're not trying to be mean to you, or they're not trying to be defiant.
Right.
It doesn't make logical sense to them. How is it okay if you, and this doesn't make logical sense even to a 5-year-old. Forget teenagers, so just forget it. But 5-year-olds also will say, how is it okay for you to be on your phone, but me not to be on my phone?
Right.
So I think those kinds of things can be modeled right from early childhood by the parents, that whatever rules apply to you apply to me. Unless, of course, they're in a, I want to go and, drive a car, obviously not. There are laws and rules, but within a certain kind of reasonableness, we model we say that it's the same rules for you as for me. And then every time, if we have a discussion instead of laying down the law, it usually works. I know it doesn't work all the time, and sometimes children are very throw tantrums, and every child is different. I know that. But I think from the Gita, this teaching, the most basic, the crux of the Gita is do your dharma with no thought to the outcome. If we could truly practice that, that would be plenty. Like, I'm doing what is my dharma as a parent to take care of the child in whatever way you define, with no expectations as to the outcome of my action. I do it because I should. That's all. I don't do it so that my children obey me, so that they remember me, so that they're grateful to me, and none. I do it because that's my duty as a mom or a dad to do that. And I use this with children also, and it makes sense to them. I tell them, what's your duty as a student? What's your dharma? Because Krishna was telling Arjuna, he should do his dharma. Okay, what's your dharma? So they say, to study hard and to complete homework on time and to be respectful to teachers and all. Okay, great. That's all fine. I say, let's pick that one, study hard. Why should you study hard? And say, because we should do well in life, we should get a good rank, we should get a good college, good job, make our parents happy, make our teachers proud. And some of the more enlightened, evolved ones will say to gain knowledge, you know. I was like, yeah, all that is true, but all of them, Krishna says, are the wrong reason to study. And then they say, what? So I say, think about it. If you're saying I'm studying this hard because I want to come first, that means if you just flip that a bit, you're actually putting out a toxic thought into the universe, saying that everyone else, even my best friend who has studied twice as hard, should come second, third, or fourth. Okay, so that is one thing. You're putting out a thought like that into the universe, which is not a great thing, you know.
Right.
And second thing is, and this is something for adults as well. Can you control the outcome of your action? You cannot. There are too many variables. This play has been going on for too long. Some actor may enter whose part has come, but you're not expecting it. You have not written the script. Anything can happen. So you have absolutely no control of the outcome. When you know this, why invest so much of your brain cells and your mind space and your emotion in an outcome that you cannot control? Also, if you focus on the outcome, especially for children, when they're writing an exam or something, and this is our fault as parents also sometimes, that we set them up that you should get this, and get full marks. So when you're studying with that kind of thing hanging overhead and thinking about the outcome, I must get full marks or I must come first, what it does is it fills you with anxiety. And anxiety and fear are the worst obstacles to a focused mind. You cannot focus on your studies if you're anxious about what will happen. So it's distracting. So if you think about all this and say, what actually do I have control over? Parent also, as a student also, what is the only thing we have control over? Our own effort.
Right.
So put 100% into that. Take your eyes off that goal. I mean, in the back of your mind that there is a goal, but if you focus there, you'll fall into a pothole here. So just focus on getting there in the best possible way, in the most disciplined way. And even if you don't get there at the end of it, you can tell yourself hand on heart that I did my very best. And that will take out all the remorse and regret and guilt and all those unnecessary emotions, unnecessary churning of the mind, which Patanjali says yoga is the stilling of the churning, and we're creating churnings by bringing in remorse and guilt. But if you say to yourself, no, I could not have done any more, and mean it, that's it. You're free. And after all, Hindu philosophy is not about the pursuit of happiness, right? Like the Americans. Hindu philosophy, happiness is pointless. What it comes and goes. Why would you waste so much energy on a transient thing that's here one moment, gone the next?
Right.
Invest it in something more permanent. And you say, what is the permanent thing? And they always say freedom, mukti, moksha. That's what you should be pursuing. And freedom from what? The freedom from fear. You can live fearlessly. What a life you will have. Because every one of our actions, if we meditate deeply on it, not even deeply, even shallowly, if you meditate on every one of our actions is guided by fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of defeat, failure, fear of losing dignity. Everything is prompted by fear. If we could let go of the fear and just align our thought, word, and action in the same direction. Because sometimes we are thinking something but doing something else because of fear that somebody will think we're not cool or somebody won't accept us or whatever. If we could do that, immediately better health of body, spirit, mind, if all are aligned and they're all focused on the same thing, plus much faster route to the goal. If you're pulling in 3 different directions, you never get there. So, that's the kind of...
that approach itself is very liberating, to focus on your own efforts and like
it is so liberating. That has really helped me in my life. I mean, after researching the Gita, like, you do what you can. And the thing is also, Krishna says it, Patanjali says it, abhyasa, vairagya. These 2 things, if you have and you practice relentlessly. Basically, we're saying abhyasa is practice. Even being good is a matter of practice. Practice being good. You make the mindful actions, make right choices, which are not necessarily easy or convenient, but something that your Krishna inside you tells you is the right thing for you, however difficult it may be, that choice. If you keep, and the other thing to remember is that what is the right choice for you may be not the right choice for your
Others.
friend. Yeah. So that is the other thing. We impose our choices on our children, on our partners, on our friends. But each of us is different. Different things work for each of us. So, you know, what the Gita helped me really with, and the study of the scripture is to become non-judgmental. Just because somebody makes a choice different from yours doesn't mean they're wrong or less than you or better than you.
Or that you are wrong.
Or that word, or better than you. They're not better than you, or that they're not righter than you. You do what's right for you. They do what's right for them. As long as you are aligned with your thought, word, and action, you will be happy. They'll be happy. Wonderful.
What impact do you hope to have on the family structure, you know, with this philosophy, with, you know, all these books and spirituality? What is your hope for the family structure through all of this?
Through all of this? So there are these 4 things that Patanjali talks about in the Yoga Sutras, 4 important habits or whatever to cultivate before you can even begin to climb the Ashtanga ladder. You leave Ashtanga very far away. So first you have to do these 4 things.
Okay.
And one is Maitri, the company of good people.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you model this to your family, that you're surrounding yourself with positive people, people who who see the glass as half full, people who won't say this country is useless if there is litter on the road, but will go and pick up a bit and, you know, clean up some proactive thing that helps people rather than, and who always are giving somebody else benefit of the doubt when they talk about them, not hating on others because they're different. So that is really important. Satsang, you know, this company of good people, Maitri, very important for your own well-being. So if you model that to your children, I think they will also choose their friends wisely. They see the energy that comes from being surrounded by good people. So you give them an atmosphere in your house, also in your home, also where there are only positive conversations and, you know, as far as you can do it. So that's Maitri. Then Karuna, very important. You're surrounded by. What about the people who are constantly evil? I mean, life surrounds us with people who are different from us. So there are people around you within your family. Maybe, suppose as a mom, if I say, maybe a mom-in-law or some aunt or somebody is constantly negative, but you happen to live a grandmother, you know, then you don't practice hate towards that person. You don't practice disdain. You practice karuna. So beautiful. You practice compassion, that they are caught in this world, that they in this prison of their own making, that they can't come out of. The world is so beautiful, they cannot see it. Poor thing.
Right.
But not with contempt, but true compassion. Because it's always a very fine line. So true compassion, that I wish they would see how beautiful the world is. And you continue to be positive in front of them. It will rub off. It may rub off. Again, you're not looking to change them. That is focusing on the goal. You are focusing only on your effort, which is to bring positivity into the room whenever you walk in. Doesn't matter whether they take it in or not, how they respond, it doesn't matter. So you do your job. So Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, very important again. That is vicarious joy. Take joy in the joys of others. And we find it very easy to take joy in Virat Kohli's win or Taylor Swift's, you know, success or something when it's very far away from us. And we're fans. We can take such great joy that we will even fight with people who are closest to us who are supporting somebody else. It's so silly. You know, they don't even care whether you're there or not, but we are able to feel such joy for them. But within our own families, within our own circle of friends, somebody has a success. It's much harder to feel that level of joy. But if we, and that's what leads to toxic stuff getting into the brain and taking over our mind. So imagine if we could all practice mudita all the time. That can be so beautifully modeled to children. This is what they're exposed to most often. Somebody has a success and around them, adults are pulling that person down. Yeah, that she knew somebody, so, that happened, or
Yeah.
her uncle, his uncle knew something, whatever, they're always attributing other reasons instead of simply taking joy in what
Right.
that person has achieved. So these are lagams that we have to put on our tongues and our actions when we, and that's all you need to do. So mudita, take joy, because, the thing is, we can never share somebody else's grief. It's very private grief. But joy is easy. You can take happiness. They will be happy to share their joy with you. It's a wonderful thing. It blesses the giver and the receiver, both. It's a great thing. And the fourth one is upeksha. And I think that's the most important one. People will be mean, malicious, will try to pull you down. You can't really control what the world does at all. But when you practice upeksha is a kind of dispassion. You don't let it affect you. You say, fine, you keep trying, but I'm not going to be affected by it. I'm not going to react in anger, because that is entirely in your control. We think that, how can I not be mad? No, being angry, how you react is entirely within your control. So if you can practice dispassion, already your mind, the whole atmosphere at home becomes such a beautiful, calm thing for the children to be in. And even with children themselves, sometimes you may feel they're just doing it to spite me. But they're doing it because they know you will react a particular way, or they are asking for the attention that you're not giving them. It's a cry for help. Like, it's like, you're not paying me attention. Or it is like, how much can I push the envelope with this woman? So in both circumstances, if you can just pay the attention and talk them through it, or while keeping your own emotions completely
right,
that's already a great thing you can do.
Yeah. I think the key word is practice. As
Yes,
a parent,
yes. These things are amazingly difficult to practice.
Yes.
But when you have, again, Patanjali says, Shraddha, trust the process. Know that if you keep practicing, you will get better at it. And it will become muscle memory. You will practice it, and it will lead to the benefit of everyone. So Shraddha is one thing for any journey. He talks about the yoga journey. But if we talk about any journey, parenting journey, one is Shraddha, trust in the process, believe that you're doing, you are doing the right thing. You're doing your best. Second is Virya, courage. The courage to face all the setbacks that come on the way. You can't give up. It's just one. Not just parenting, any journey, if you want to be a success at it, or not even what is a success, if you want to be calm and peaceful at the end of it and feel satisfied with yourself, Shraddha, Virya, Smriti. Smriti is the memory of why you started on this journey in the first place. Let that be your goal, your purpose. This is why I do it, because I wanted to have these children and they give me so much joy. And, and I want to be a mom, and I want to be so that always keep in mind that this is why you started on the journey, however hard it gets along the way. And then Pragya. Pragya is, it has such a world of meanings. Yeah, that's you. Yeah. So Pragya is awareness, self-awareness of, to be able to not let your emotions carry you away in every moment. Stop, examine. Why am I doing this? Why am I reacting this way? And imagine if you could have a conversation with, I tell children that they should have a conversation with their Krishnas. I say, in the heat of the battle, and not even heat of the battle hadn't even started. Battle is about to begin. And our great Arjuna is willing to put down his arms and make this epic scene in front of both armies. And without thinking for a moment, what will they think? So that kind of, so I always tell them, why is a 2,500-year-old text describing a battle that happened, if I'm talking to Bangalore kids, somewhere miles away in Haryana, and 2,500 years ago. And it's a conversation in which one friend is telling the other friend why he should stand up and kill his family. I hope you are never in that position, I tell them. But why would we still be reading that book? What possible relevance can it have in our lives? And the answer is that Kurukshetra is not a faraway battlefield in Haryana. Kurukshetra is in our minds and hearts.
Yeah.
Kurukshetra is the world that we operate in every day. And we do not fight with guns and swords and bows and arrows. We make battle with our choices.
Mm.
Every choice we make leads to a win or a loss.
Yeah.
And who are these Pandavas and Kauravas? Nobody outside of us. They all live inside of us.
Yeah.
And every time we have to make a decision, we're on the horns of a dilemma. The Kauravas, there are always 100 of them and only 5 Pandavas.
Yeah.
And the Pandavas are like, no, don't do it. You will get caught. Your mom will be unhappy. Something will happen. They are putting out all the possible things that could go wrong and trying to guide you. And the 100 Kauravas are saying, just do it. No one will ever find out. Okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's easy. It's just nobody will care if you go through the traffic light. No, there is no policeman around. This kind of constant. And what happens is when all these 105 people are screaming inside of you, you make the wrong decision. So do as Arjuna did. He cut the Kauravas out of his line of sight and sound. He said, I don't care if you're exulting because I look unhappy here and I might walk off from the battlefield. That's your problem. I'm not worried about that. If the Pandavas are suddenly desolate because what is he going to do? He's going to leave us. How are we going to win this war? I don't care about you. So I tell the kids, you have to shut your Kauravas up for sure, but you also have to shut the Pandavas down, because the Pandavas are your fears of you. That'll happen. This will happen. This will happen. If you do that, don't do it. Don't do it. So cut those out as well. And only in that silence, like Arjuna did, you will hear the voice of Krishna. And he is, and you don't have to call him Krishna, call him Jesus, call him Allah, call him her, call whatever you want. But that is your higher self. That's just the voice of your higher self. Krishna is not outside of you. Don't wait for some best friend to come and tell you what to do.
Right.
Your best friend is already inside you. Is your higher self. So you'll hear the voice of Krishna and Krishna will guide you. But the thing is that if you suddenly decide one day, okay, my friend is calling, saying to come to coffee day or wherever, on third wave, and and I'm saying, no, my mom will never let me. And she's saying, just tell her you're coming to my house to study. And now the Kauravas and the Pandavas are shouting, go, don't go, don't go. At that point, you have to take that pause. And then you're saying, come on, Krishna, tell me, speak up, chop, chop. Tell me what I should do. Krishna won't speak up because he spoke to Arjuna because Arjuna had spent years and years of his life cultivating firm friendship with Krishna. So you have to do the same. And that's the only way you will be able to trust that Krishna. Otherwise, because Arjuna had known him for so long, he had taken his problems to him, Krishna had given him suggestions, he had followed his suggestions and figured out, oh my God, he knows me better than I do myself, so better follow him. That's how trust develops. So I tell kids, you speak to your Krishnas at the end of every day. And I feel that could be done as a family exercise. Also, what happened today? What do you feel bad about?
Right.
What could you have done better today?
Better.
And then discuss it.
Living, living with a little more consciousness.
Examine lives, conscious. Yeah. Instead of simply blundering through life, going from day to day, only thinking about the stresses and this has to be finished, that to stop. Even as a family, it would be nice to have a little circle time kind of thing in the evenings. Like, you can start. What I could have done better. I should not have said that to that person. I shouldn't have thought that mean thought.
Yeah.
But again, puts you on the same level. If you show yourself to be vulnerable, kids are far more, they are so kind. Kids are so kind. They're young, sweet little gods and goddesses sitting there. I know they behave like devils sometimes, but but they are willing to. If you show yourself as vulnerable and willing to listen to them, and they will also share. I feel that's important.
Nice, interesting. So there is a question that somebody actually sent in. Because we're actually time is up, so I'm going to open to everybody who's attending. But before that, I'd like to read out the question that somebody had sent. So the question is: in today's complex work world, we often face situations where we have to live in another city or country, or travel for long periods while children are growing up. What examples of long distance parenting does ancient India have to offer, and what are the lessons and techniques they utilized? How can these be superimposed on the contemporary situation?
I don't think they have anything for long distance parenting, but I mean, those sages and whoever wrote these were also away from their families a lot.
Yes.
But I think it's not like they keep saying, it's not the quantity of time that you spend, but you can keep in touch with your children. I mean, even if you're far away, if you
Yeah.
schedule certain amounts of time, and not only be like, how are you? Okay, bye. Now dad's got to go, like put the phone down, but schedule some actual time to. I think
Get to know them.
kids realize very quickly your level of interest in in the course of a call. If you're going to be distracted and you're doing it as a checklist, as one of the things to do, they will know it.
Right.
But if they know that when you call, now they have you for 10 minutes for sure, they'll be willing to share or talk. Or I feel it's not, I mean, I don't know. I don't travel that much. So, or I didn't when my children were younger. I didn't travel very much without them. So, but I feel now it's easier, no? It's so much easier with FaceTime and stuff like that. It's very much easier to be in touch.
Yeah.
Of course, there are time differences. It's just intention. If they know that your intention is to actually talk to them and you're not doing it simply as a duty.
Yeah.
I
Also,
think,
like you said, if we cultivate these habits, from when children are young, and and you show them how to live, they do as you do, not as you say.
Yeah.
It's automatic. It's easier to, just have these long distance relationships and
create, if you're going to be away from home, I think create some rituals that are as sacred to you as they are to the kids.
Yeah.
Like this maybe end of day meeting and talking about, I could have done this better, you could have done, if that can be practiced.
Of course,
Many rituals like that can be done.
Yeah.
Like I was at a friend's house recently and I was stunned because it was some festival and they have always, when the kids were young and they were all together, they used to chant from some scripture together. And these kids are all working now. They're much older. They live in a different time zone, but they find a time which is convenient to everybody. And then the whole family, all the extended family logs in from wherever they are and they read the scripture together.
How nice.
It's just one of those rituals, It's really touched. It's just moved me so deeply that all these children who are otherwise so bratty, but they will come for this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen examples of that with the Ganesh Chaturthi Aarti.
Yeah.
I've seen a friend of mine, her parents are in Pune and they are living in the Middle East somewhere, in different countries in the Middle East, and then they'll log in at the same time and just participate, even though it's remote. So, and it gives a nice feeling of
it's a very nice
unity
feeling.
and,
Yeah.
Nice. This has been a very enlightening conversation. It's been amazing, and I can talk to you for a longer time. But we have the constraint of time, and I want to open it up, for our participants. Is there anything that you'd like to ask Roopa? And I'll just, while people are thinking about their questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Roopa. I absolutely love the conversation and I love, love, love your work. I also bought some of your books. And I love the fact that, when you're trying to share the message, nothing has been diluted in translation. So thank you so much. That was just amazing. I'm just curious. So when, I'm sure you would have received feedback from children as well as parents who would have read these books. What feedback did you receive from the parents and what did the children say? How did it change their lives or impact their lives?
So parents, I mean, from the very beginning, I've said, thank you for writing something for children because now I can understand what the Gita is about. So I think it's the accessibility of it that parents like. And they have another very, very wonderful compliment I've received from parents is that this gives us, especially the Gita, gives us a structure, a framework within which to teach values to our children. Because of those lessons from the Gita chapters in between the 18 chapters, there are 18 Upa chapters, like smaller chapters, but in which we pick one lesson from the previous chapter and we talk about that and how it can help them in their how they can use it in their day-to-day lives. I think that parents have found very useful because they say otherwise if we try and teach some morals and this, that and all, they're so resistant. They're like, stop, I don't want to have anything to do with that. But, it's given me a framework within which to discuss. So that is one thing. Children, yes, just 2 days ago, there was a concert or something that I had been to where, I was introduced as this writer and And this young woman, maybe she was like 22, 23, came up to me and said, I read your Gita, whatever, 5, 10 years ago. And not 10, maybe 9 years ago. And I was quite young. And I would never have gone towards Indian philosophy. I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was, nothing that I could understand. And it just opened a portal in my mind that, oh, this is so relatable. So it just changed my entire perspective on what Indian philosophy is, what scripture is, what the Gita is. So that kind of transformational stuff when people say, and they say, now I'm not embarrassed to say I'm Indian and I like to, those kinds of things, that we are not, it just gives you more confidence in who you are. And your philosophy seems so and the other thing, the Indian philosophy is so rooted in logic and reason. It's not mumbo jumbo at all. It doesn't even ask you to believe. Like other religions may ask you to believe in something. Here it asks you to discover it by yourself. Go on the journey, find out. So I think that is very appealing to a 21st century youngster. It's appealing to your reason, not to your, not asking you to do something because God is there, like because heaven, because nothing. So I think it's very scientific in that sense.
Beautiful. Thank you, Roopa.
Thank you.
So we have another question in the comments.
Yeah.
Vineet N says, loved your
I can
message.
see it. Yeah. How do we guide children to find their own Krishnas?
I don't know. I don't know if on YouTube.
Parijata is Access Monday. It can be whatever you think. Access Monday can be whatever you want it to be. But Parijata could be it. But Krishna tells Arjuna that I am the Ashwatha. Of all the trees, I am the mighty Ashwatha. So maybe he means that. It doesn't matter. Those are small things. You can believe whatever and you can write your stories and you can imagine the Parijata to be, it's fine. But how do we guide children to find their own Krishnas? I think just putting that idea into their heads, that all your power lies within you, not without you. All the power in the world. That is your Krishna. The ability to discern, to discriminate between right and wrong. The ability to go after a goal and get it, to be focused, all that is only within you. And you have to harness it. And you can. I think that itself is very empowering to make them independent and begin to believe in themselves. And to, like I said, encourage self-inquiry, swa-adhyaya, so that if you spend some time, encourage them to spend some time each day thinking about what they could have done better, how they can do something differently, and try out those things without any judgment. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. I told you not to do that. No, not like that. But what could you have done? Let the answers come from them. And when it comes from them, it's really coming from their Krishna. That's all. It's a conscience thing. It's a higher self. So I'll just tell you. Okay, sorry, we're out of time, I think. Go on, Pragya.
No, I just wanted to read the question out because I don't know if our viewers.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So the first question is, loved your message about our own Krishnas. My question is, how do we guide children to find their own Krishna? Is it something about their own self-conscience? So this is what Roopa was just talking about. And the second question was, also my son, who is also listening to the conversation, has queried whether the Parijata tree is Axis Mundi. So Roopa just answered that question. She already answered that.
Yeah.
Continue, Roopa.
No, and that Mundaka Upanishad, not the Mandukya Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, there's a beautiful story of the two birds. They are best friends. They do everything together. They are so fond of each other, all that. And they travel together as well. And one day they're traveling together and they're looking for a new place to live. And they come upon this beautiful tree, which is laden with fruit, a very tall tree. And they say, I think we could just spend the rest of our lives very happily here. Let's just go to the top of the tree and live there. So they begin their journey upwards. And then one of the birds sees this luscious fruit hanging. Okay. And she says, I just want to taste a bit of it. It looks so lovely. I don't know if the fruits are there up there. So let's have some fruit. So both the birds eat of the fruit. They satisfy their hunger. It's fine. Then let's call them bird A and bird B. So bird B has pointed to the fruit and they've eaten. Then they begin to fly upwards. And then the bird B spots yet another luscious fruit of a different variety. And he says, oh my God, that's my favorite fruit. And it's hanging there so low, so easy to eat. Shall I stop here? And bird A says, but we just ate. He's like, no, but I may not get it again. So who knows what's there? So he stops and eats. And while this younger, lower bird is being distracted constantly by the things around it, the other bird says finally, okay, bye, you know what? I'm just going to go there. I'll be waiting there. You finish whatever you're doing and come. I'm full. The higher bird goes and sits on top of the tree. The lower bird is constantly being distracted, going after this fruit, that exciting vegetable, what, not vegetable, fruit only, something, whatever. And then at some point, this lower bird bites into a fruit and finds it's infested with maggots. It gets stomachache. Then at that point, he suddenly remembers, oh, I'm so unhappy. The world is so bad to me. Everybody else is getting good fruits. Only I have got the bad fruit. I have to cry on somebody's shoulder. Where's that friend? I came with a friend. Then she remembers her friend. And then she looks up and she sees that bird. The higher bird is sitting there golden in the sunlight at the top of the tree. And she says, oh, I need a friend. I need to eat somebody's shoulder to cry on. And she starts flying upwards. And then again, she spots a fruit. And she says, maybe if I eat that fruit, I'll feel better. Goes after that. And this goes on and on and on until she comes across a fruit that is so rotten and she's feeling so terrible that she says, I just have to go to my friend. Goes straight to the top of the tree. And when she gets there, she realizes there was no other bird at all. She's the golden bird. Like she goes there and becomes the golden bird. And that's the story of our lower self and higher self. We're constantly being distracted by maybe this will make me complete. That will make, if I get that, I'll be happy. If I get this, I'll be happy. Without realizing that if you went to the top of the tree, you'll realize you were happy all along. You are already complete. You don't need anybody or anything else to make you full, happy, content. So we chase after things thinking that if I have that, I'll be content. So that is what is Krishna, getting to your Krishna, raising yourself up from all the temptations that come, the Maya that is the world, and just go up, up there. Yeah.
Okay, there is another question.
Yeah.
Lovely to Abha Jagdari.
Yeah.
Lovely to listen to you today. My question is that today, while my daughter is interested in the ancient scriptures and loves talking and debating it with us and finding her own truth, she often gets confused about its relevance today and practical acceptance and applicability, especially when this gets rejected by her peers. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a long, lonely journey when you're different from your peers. To walk to the tune of your own, to the beat of your own drummer is not an easy thing. But that's what I would ask her also, to remember Shraddha, Virya, Smriti. Like, you have to have the faith in the process. If you believe that this is what makes you happy, this is actually speaking to your inner soul, it's making you a better human being in some way, then you will have to develop the courage and the tough hide to take the not rejection of your peers, but people will doubt. Then they say, what are you going on about? If that is the problem, then keep it to yourself. There's no need to talk about it or convince people. Keep it to yourself, do your own thing. And I promise you, if the daughter is listening, or even to Abha, that people do have grudging respect for people who walk to their own tune. They do. They cannot admit it. It would make them feel it's too infra-dig to admit that. But people will remember you after you've left their lives. You've gone to college, they've gone somewhere else. But they say, there was this person uncompromising, and she would just do, and she was always happy, or whatever. So she always seemed to be so sure of her choices, because I think that is what, when you're a teenager, when you're a young person, still not sure of who you are, it's a very tough time for anyone, for everyone. It was tough for us, and nowadays it's even tougher. Yeah. But if you walk your path, I think, and yeah, it's just one of those things, and you have to, again, I think she's already on a great path if she's enjoying the scriptures and debating about it. That is the wonderful part. Not just being interested and following, but being able to engage in a conversation and come to her own understanding. And really, the scripture, like everything else in the world, take what you need from it. Don't unquestioningly take everything. In fact, the Vedas demand that you question received wisdom. Don't take it. Don't believe just because I say it. Find out for yourself. Walk the path. So if she's debating it, already a great sign.
Nice. Nice. It's been a wonderful conversation. I don't see any other questions. Thank you, Usha Katyaini. Thank you for an enlightening talk, also for writing the Tara Knots series, which was a godsend when I had to look for Indian books for my daughter, as my experience of childhood with Enid Blyton was very similar to yours. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Usha. This compliment, this means so much to me, because really that's what I wrote them for. Of course, I had a blast writing them. That's a different thing. But yeah, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad your daughter enjoyed Tara Knots. So I'll just let you know that this year is 15 years of Tara Knots. So we are coming out with a Tara Knots Omnibus as an anniversary edition. And it's going to be like an 850-page tome with all 8 volumes in one. So,
very nice. Yeah. Something to look forward to. Roopa, is there anywhere that people can contact you for more questions? Any email ID or Instagram handle?
Yeah, Instagram is roopa.pai. You can find me there.
Roopa.pai. Okay.
Yeah, ROO. Yeah.
Yeah, ROOPA.PAI.
Yeah.
For anyone who's watching on YouTube or other, we have other social media handles as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I also, somebody told me that, and I have just carried it in my head. So I'll let Pragya read it out if you think.
Yeah, Vineet N writes, very nice to bring the analogy of projector and the screen. Has been an eye-opener and been my guiding spirit. Very nice.
So that analogy that Vineet is talking about is that, I'll do a little variant of that when I explain it. It's just that when you're watching a film, you are so absorbed in the lives of those characters. A really good film will make you laugh and cry and feel with the characters. But always at the back of your mind, you know that it's just a film. Yeah. Right? And that's how you should go through life also. Life is happening. But if you take it personally, it's happening to you, then you are the fool. It is happening. Things are happening. But if you can step back and then if you realize that without the light, the projector cannot work. We think that what is being seen on the screen is reality, but the reality is the light of the projector that allows this thing to play out. And the light is that divine spark inside of us. Because of our own consciousness, we can take in the movie. If our consciousness is not there, the movie becomes us, and then we are fully confused. We start believing that is the reality. If we realize that it's the light we shine on the world that gives us the movie. So the thing is, that's the other thing, that we create the universe. I didn't used to understand this when I was younger or whatever, but we create the universe that we live in. We inhabit the universe only that we create, that people are bad to us. This is all a universe that we have created in our head. The external universe can be happening, but that is not what is affecting us really. It is how we perceive the universe that is affecting us. So if you perceive it as a safe place, as a good place, and while you take all your necessary precautions and I do good, and it will be that. It's, the very universe is very much fashioned by what you put out into it. So, yeah.
Very nice. And on that note, I think we'll close today's session.
Thank you, Pragya.
Thank you so much,
Roopa.
This
lovely conversation.
Yes, this has been a wonderful conversation. And I think everybody on YouTube, everyone who's watching us anywhere, I think there was something for everybody and something practical. And it's just it was a great conversation. As a parent also, I could really relate to it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who joined us live today. And stay tuned for the future conversations that we're going to have. Everything is on our Instagram handle, which is you can find us on Wiki Karnataka Yoga Council. That's our Instagram handle. So with that, I'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you to Wiki Yoga and the Karnataka Yoga Council. Thank you, Priya, for getting in touch with me and remembering me from very long ago and having me here. Thanks.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, Pragya. Lovely.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.